I'm going to be talking about perceived control. What exactly is perceived control? Well, it's a person's self-assessment of the ability to exert control, and it's called perceived control. The judgment that one has the means to obtain desired outcomes and to avoid undesirable ones. Perceived control is the combination of self-efficacy and locus of control, which as second-year psychology students are terms we're all familiar with. Basically, a high self-efficacy and an internal locus of control leads to high perceived control. But as a New Yorker, what is an American perspective on perceived control?
Well, it's important to note that perceived control is different than self-control, and self-control is the ability to act in a desired way in a certain situation. Americans have low self-control but a much higher perceived control. This low self-control may be as a result of just an overall impatient culture and a higher level of stress than other cultures. Americans are always in a rush, and they think that they have control over everything, but when it shows that there isn't control, then they tend to have a negative outcome of a hissy fit or a temper tantrum. Being an individualistic culture gives rise to perceived control because we have the ability to make decisions on our own about ourselves, whereas in a collectivist culture there's more of a hesitancy to do so because you need to approve for everyone else and be approved by everyone else. For example, Americans have their own control to leave their homes and parents at age 18 or even earlier, or can stay with their parents in their parents' home until they're around 26 or older, and it's accepted. Whereas in European countries it may be different. Is it different in Ukraine?
Actually, there is a research that Eastern Europeans have a higher sense of perceived control than Western Europeans, and I think it stems from the fact that we are actually pressured into leaving home and making a career or family very early, and that's why we kind of always think about we have to be in control, whereas Western Europeans, they can take a year off, self-explore, travel, and then there are some ways to sustain higher perceived control, like changing to goals that are reachable at the moment, or accepting current circumstances, or creating new avenues for control. And I think what we're doing is, in America you said people are under pressure not to feel like a failure, but I think when we fail, we actually just tend to blame it on some external circumstances, and that's why it helps us to sustain a higher level of perceived personal control. And it is very beneficial to have perceived personal control, and would you like to tell us something about that?
Well, advantages of perceived control. There's a sense of well-being, a sense of being able to take action in what you're doing, and avoiding stress. How would you avoid stress? You do stress reduction. You deep breathe, you journal, you take walks, do whatever you need to. Everyone has different kinds. Some things make people more anxious by doing it, so you try something different. Beneficial things are because it's all associated with positive emotions. So with more positive emotions, you're more active in problem solving, and being active in resolving your problems reduces anxiety, reduces stress, and it buffers against your negative physical responses, which is always a good thing to do. There was a study, it was 7 weeks long, 2 hours a day, in 2-hour sessions for 7 weeks, and they practiced imagery, they practiced positive self-talk, they practiced goal setting, skills, all of that kind of stress management type of behaviors. And after this study, this was shown that there was higher perception of self-control. They were able to manage their issues better. They had higher self-efficacy, more control, their moods were better, their relationships were better, all of that stuff was better. So basically, perceived personal control is one of the areas in positive psych that can provide benefits for us. It can give us means to take control. It doesn't matter if you are in a rut, if you are healthy, if you are in a struggle, anything like that. You can gain more control in your life.